Hey guys, welcome to the Traditional Bow Hunting Wilderness Podcast. This is Jason Samkoviak, and what we're going to do here is I'm out by my bear bait here, and my bear hunting this year failed pretty miserably actually. I was trying to convince a really good sized bear and trying to get him to make some mistakes, and I failed at it. And I thought if I did this video and kind of walked you through what I did, it would give you something that's going to benefit you in your bear hunting. Maybe take your bear hunting to the next level, give you some tips or tactics that might work better for you. Because like I said, my season had basically ended yesterday. I got a couple days in a month from now where it's an archery only one and I can try, but I'll be pretty wrapped up with deer hunting and probably not going to get out here. I might try it. I'm going to keep it running, but like I said, for the last month, I have been doing everything I can to try and break this bear and get him to come in during daylight. In this video, I'll show you some pictures of this bear. He's a pretty good bear. And but like I said, he's just a lot smarter. So I'm going to walk you around here, show you what's what, show you what I got set up here, and explain some of the things that that I, looking back on it in hindsight, that I maybe didn't do right, or give you anything I can to kind of help make your bear hunting better. That's what I'm trying to do with this. Learn from my mistakes and my failures. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that camera off the tripod here. It's just my cell phone, but I'm going to show you a little bit about what's going on here. Now, in Michigan, where I'm at, in Michigan, the law here is that I'm allowed to maintain up to 3 bait sites. So when I was able to start September 15th or 16th, when I could start baiting for the August 16th, when I could start baiting for the September 16th opener of the bear season, I could have up to 3 sites maintained. I started with 2. One of them was getting hit pretty good, the other one a little bit more sporadic, and then I dropped the sporadic one. I built another one, which is this one. This one started getting hit really religiously and maintained and perfect, and so I had this one, and the other one, it was kind of being still hit pretty decent, and this one being hit very often by a really good sized bear. So then I opened up one more for a third one. That one got hit. That one was also very sporadic, so that one eventually I decided just to stick with this one and the other one. So I shut down that one. When I shut them down, I mean I took the logs that I had cut and got them out of there and basically killed the whole site, shut it right down. Well, so that left me with 2. The other one ended up kind of going cold once the white oak acorns fall. See, our season here coincides with the white oak acorns dropping down. And when that happens, the white oaks are a prime food source for bears, for deer, for everything. And same thing happened to me 10 years ago when I pulled my last Michigan permit. I was beat out by white acorns. Bears were coming in all the time, day, night, everything. Then the white oaks started dropping, and when they did, they shut down my site. So when that other one got shut down, I was all right with it because this one was getting hit every single day, and I specifically built this one based on the fact of white oak acorns. See, what we have here is we're on the edge of a swamp. You can still hear cars in the background. There's a major road that runs up through there, but it kind of views in and cuts up that way right here at a turn. This is a massive swamp. I mean, we're talking probably 3 mile by 6 mile, just vicious, just miserable, watery, nasty cedar swamp, just the kind of stuff that bears love. I'm right on the point of that. This is actually at a point that kind of breaks up right here and comes up this high spot as we come up out of this. Then behind me, I'll show you, it's all white oak acorns out here everywhere, just surrounded with white oaks. My intention for this site was that if the other ones did go cold because of white oaks, this one would still produce because of the fact that I'm coming out of a swamp where they're going to come out to come up here and access these white oaks. And it worked like a champ. That's been perfect. Not only did I have, I got a big bear hitting it regularly, a couple other bears that would come in as they would cruise through sporadically, but it did exactly what I wanted to. That bear's coming out of here, he hits this, wipes it out, and then goes in and eats on the white oaks. So my concept there was 100% solid. It was spot on. Of the total of 4 bait sites that I had started with, this is the only one that survived through the white oak acorn thing. So putting it where I have access to white oaks, where they're right next to white oaks, where these bears want to come out of that thick swamp at night and eat the white oaks, this bait was 100% spot on. This bait was 100% spot on every single level except for the particular bear that I had coming here. And when it comes to the bears, the other downside I have here is that where I live, I decided to hunt close to my house because of the fact that I'm gone for 3 days a week for work, so I need to have my neighbor bait this for me, which he said he would do. He's in his upper 60s, and I didn't want to have him walking 3 miles through the woods, and I sure didn't want him driving an hour north each day to go bait. So I decided to keep the bait pretty close to my house and pretty easy to access. I can get my quad within about 500 yards of here. I get my truck within a quarter mile of here, half mile of here, somewhere in that neighborhood. So it's not too far back in here and buried in, which I needed to do for him to be able to run those baits for me. In Michigan, we have to put the bait right on the ground, which you will see. Now, you put the bait on the ground, and then I actually would cover it with logs. That also developed some other problems in there too, which I'll get into for you. But first, before we do that, let me kind of show you a little bit about what's going on around here so it makes sense. Then I'll come back, put you on the tripod, and I'll explain some more of that stuff, what did and didn't work for you. Okay, now we're walking up to the bait. You can see my tripod there. That's where I was just standing at. This trail right here is the main trail that bear comes out of there, hits that bait, and he takes this trail and walks it right up into all those white oaks that are out there. That is his main trail that he comes in right through here. This is the way he goes in and out of here. You can see he's got some, poop all over this whole thing. And you can see by the size of that, that's pretty good bear poop in there. And but yeah, this is his main trail coming out of there when he leaves. Now, what we did here, like I said, this is all massive swamp that runs through here, and it's huge. And we are on a point. This point kind of wraps right out here and goes in, and you can see the white oaks already starting in here, and it goes right into there. But this swamp just kind of loops right around the side of this thing. So when I set this bear bait up, I set that bait up right here to catch them as they come right up out of this swamp. He's got trails that come right up and around. He comes right up through there. They come right through there. You can see that massive trail running right through there that he comes in on. So this is his area here, basically. So with my bait, what I did is I have those logs there, which actually will form a box. He came in here last night and wrecked the rest of it out, but those will form a box. And then I have these logs here and all these logs that I would stack on top of that to keep the coons and the stuff out of there in the beginning. Keep all the little critters from eating up my bait before the bear got here. That actually tended to be a bad thing, and I'll explain why here in a minute. And then you can see that stump I kept filling with peanut butter and icing and like all kinds of sugary sweets and stuff like that right in that hollow of that stump that was there that he kept digging out. And then I would spray each of these trees. You can see the marks on them there where I would spray those trees. All these trees that are right around here, all these little trees, I would spray them with vanilla scent on them so you could see. So that would bring these bears into this bear site right here. And then what I did is I actually had my stand set up in that tree there. Hang on, I got bees swarming all over me here. Get out of there. But I had my stand set up in that tree right there was where my original intention was to hunt this. Problem is that these bears, that big bear, that one that I was most interested in, he was a big bear and not dumb. He was a very smart bear. So how you see I ended this up with what you're seeing here now is I have two logs here that are blocking him from coming in and basically facing and eating while I'm in that tree. This way he can't come straight into here. He's going to go around that other side, giving me a broadside or quartering away shot from that tree. That's the whole intention here. Okay, so now that you kind of took a look at what we got going on right here, there's white oaks back there, big swamp back there, and I set this up. One of the first mistakes I made here was I started treating this like a lot of my Ontario bear hunts. What I mean by that is, in Ontario, and in a lot of places, even here in Michigan, if I were to go an hour, hour and a half north of me, there's a lot more bears. Where I'm at here, in the area I'm at, there's not a lot of bears here. Very few of them, actually. And what happens is they're in the swamps, and I knew I would be able to pull some in, and I did. But knowing that there's not a lot of bears here, and that, well, I'll take those as two separate things. Without there being a lot of bears, there's not a lot of competition for the bait. So what happened with this big bear, which by now you've probably already inserted it somewhere in this video so you can see him. He's a good bear. But one of the problems is when I'm covering up those logs, that bait with those logs, and I have these to keep the little critters out of there, if that one bear, that big bear is the only one that's actually coming into my bait site, there's no competition for him. There's nothing to eat that food up before he gets there and force him to come in earlier. And that became a problem, something that I realized pretty quick on, because I couldn't, he'd always come in every single day, a half hour after legal shooting light. Every night, half hour after legal shooting light, and he would stay here for hours. He would actually, I'll put a picture in here too, he would take a nap right there, right here next to that bait. He would lay there and he would sleep there for over an hour. Sound asleep, laying on his back, arms stretched out, and he would just pass out right there. Then he'd get up and he'd eat some more. He'd be here for 4, 5, 6 hours a night sometimes, eating this bait, but he would never come in until that half hour after legal shooting light every night. Why? Nothing forced him to come in. There was no reason for him to come in during daylight. There was zero competition for that bear to have to come in here and risk exposing himself during daylight when activity can happen. Now, so that was one problem. Other problem is, because of the fact that I am in such a urban kind of area, per se, with small game hunters and hikers and all this stuff that are somewhere in this general area, not being real super deep into the woods. Again, I couldn't do that and still have my neighbor bait this for me. The problem it poses with that is these bears are very skittish of people. They're not like a lot of big northern up in Canada type bears where they're not afraid of, they're not worried about people. Here the people issue is a big issue. And so that means that they need to have a way to verify when they come in that bait is safe to come to. Also, if there's other bears coming in, bears want to be able to verify that there's not another bear on the bait. Or if there is, to find out who it is and what bear it is. Now, the problem that I did wrong here without taking that into consideration when I did it was I put the bait here on purpose to catch them coming off that point. That I'm good with. Problem is, I should have went further back into there somewhere and gave them a swing around point that was pretty pretty thick and nasty for them, so that they could actually circle this bait, because the most common wind direction is heading that way. From that bait towards where I showed you where my tree stand was, that's the most common wind direction, and I did that on purpose. But what they don't have behind me is good, super thick, secure swamp cover to make a 50-yard circle around me to verify and scent check what's at this bait. Because I didn't give them that option, it kind of limits them as far as when they're going to come in during daylight to be able to make that circle. So I'm going to move this camera, though. That sun came back out and it's hitting me right in the face. Then I'm going to go over some more stuff with. All right, sorry, relocated. But anyway, so I didn't have enough for him to circle around behind me. And the downside to that, with him not being able to do that, is he didn't feel secure to be able to scent check and see if I was there. So in hindsight, what I should have done is I should have hiked back in further. I did go in there and scout when I checked this place out. But the problem I found is, because we have to put the bait right on the ground, it's all so wet and swampy and soft in there and mucky that I didn't think there was a place where I could put the bait on the ground and have a log cache set up like I want to keep other critters out and not have it get flooded out or ruined. It would have been a lot different if I could have used a 5-gallon bucket or a 55-gallon drum or something, or even a tire, but you can't here. So I chose to come up on the high ground and get right up on that point and pull the bears out to me. The downside, they have nothing here that they can circle around behind. Like I said, out here it's all very open and open hardwoods rather than swamp, and they can't circle around. So that was one mistake I made. Now, another issue that I ran into was the fact that, like I said, there was zero competition for these bears to force them to come in during daylight. I kept putting out grease pads, and I kept putting out maple syrup pads and trails for them to have to step in this, get it on their pads, walk it into the woods, bring other bears in. But there's not that many bears here. Like I said, a couple other little occasional ones come through once in a while. But other than that big bear that was hitting, he hit every single night. Other than him, these other ones were very sporadic. Not anything to cause any competition. Well, then when hunting season got here, and it was time to hunt them, I knew that I didn't have this bear coming in during daylight. What am I going to do? So what I started doing is I started short baiting them. Right before I could hunt them, I'd come out and I would just, I would put bait there and smear it around in there, and then I would take it out and I would just leave them a couple of, maybe a 16-ounce glass full of bait with all I would leave in there, and I would leave the logs off like something else got in there, and see if that worked. I even brought poop in from one of the other bear baits that I had running and set that here so it looked like it was another bear. I did that for 3 days in a row, trying to short cycle him and create competition to get him in and come in early. Still didn't work. He came in same time every night, wouldn't come in any earlier. He just didn't care. And you could tell he was pissed on the camera because he'd start really instead of just sitting there and eating all day and hanging out all night, he'd just keep coming back every 10 minutes. He'd leave and come back like he kept waiting for something to be there. But it still never brought him in before shooting light. Next thing I did is I actually, during hunting season, during my week to hunt, I sat the first night. I didn't see anything. I didn't think I would. Next night, I came out here, I hunted, left, and then I came back out here at about 10:30 at night, kicked him off the bait, and I took all the bait, put it into a 5-gallon bucket, and left with it, hoping that I would become the dominant bear. That way I could make it where he has to beat me to the bait. So I did that. I hunted the next night, didn't see him at all. I got down, came back the next day, checked the camera. He did come in a little bit earlier, but still not coming in before daylight. So I did one more time, I did the same thing. I came in at 9:15. He was there. I kicked him off. I took all the bait. I left with it, hoping that would do it. That didn't do it. Next thing I did was thought, okay, I'm just going to forget the logs completely, which is why it looked like you saw it right now, where all the bait is open and the logs are set up. I'm not even using the logs. So then I figured if I can't fool him, and he doesn't care about that, then maybe what I can do is let the coons and the porcupines, possums, and there's 2 coyotes that are in here all the time. I see them from the stand and on camera. They're eating there. So I thought I'd let these other animals come in and devour that bait before he got there. And I did that. It didn't work either. Now what happened is that bear basically stopped kind of coming in at all. He didn't come in for one night at all after that because the other animals ate all the bait. Then I put regular bait back out there again, more of it, so it would be there when he did come in. He did finally come in, but that time he came in later, so I don't know if that worked or not worked. Then I had a weekend happen, and I had to be downstate working. During that, I had my neighbor baiting it, leaving it open, but still putting out a decent enough bait so that the little critters couldn't eat it all, and there was enough left for him when he got back. He was coming back in, and he was coming in, getting closer to daylight, but still not there yet. Still a good 20 minutes. I only gained 10 minutes through the whole process. Still 20 minutes. He's waiting till it's pitch black before he would come in. Couldn't beat it. So then what I thought I would do is because I had one more day to hunt, which was Monday, which was yesterday, actually. So I thought, all right, I'm going to try and beat this bear. I'm going to try beating him at his own game. So what I did is I baited it like I normally do. But instead of hunting from the stand I'm at, I actually got down and I started backtracking in a downwind position of where my stand is, 60, 75 yards. I knew there was going to be a trail there where he would circle around me somewhere, that he would be scent checking to see if I'm there and stuff like that. So I headed over in that direction, and I did find where his trails are. He's got 2 trails that kind of come through there if he comes in from one way, or an actual circle trail. And what I did is I hung my stand there, and I hunted last night there to see if he would come in. And it was pouring rain and miserable last night. Real crappy, windy, rainy night. He didn't come in. That's how my season ended, so I didn't see him. But that tactic has worked for me before in Canada. I've killed a bear that way when one wouldn't come in because of the fact that I was there, by getting on his downwind circle trail where he goes around. So that was my attempt. Now, I do have that late season. I will possibly see if I can maybe what happens there and maybe try that tactic again. So I think I haven't checked the camera yet today, but I'm assuming weather-wise he probably still didn't come in till later. He did come in because all the bait's pretty much gone, but I don't know what time. But he did not do his circle around me like I would have expected to, not during legal shooting light anyway. So I kind of got shafted there, but I'll show you what I mean when I say that downwind setup kind of thing. I'll show you that right now, actually. Okay, my bait is actually where I'm set up is about 40 yards into there, into that stuff right in there is where I am. So I'm on the downwind side of that. You can look here, you can see, I mean, again, you can look at the size of this poop coming out of this bear, but this is his circle trail where he's kind of coming around me. What he does is he'll come right up out of this stick point right here, and he's got 2 trails that do this. One that you can see, he comes up through there, he scent checks, and then he works his way through here, goes right up, that's where that poop is, and takes him right up in there. Or he's got another one that you can see that runs right or at this edge and comes right in here. It also cuts right across where that tree is, that down pine, and goes right up through there. It stays right, it basically follows this thicker stuff that you see. It runs right up around here, and he'll circle me right on that edge of that thick stuff through there to get back behind me. So what I did last night is I came out here, and knowing that that's there, I actually set my stand right up in this tree right here, right on that tree, so that I could shoot right into there as best I could without having to trim too much, because that trail runs right down through there. He's got the trail that runs right along that pine. It's just on this side of it over there. And then he's got that other one where he hooks, like I said, right through here, wraps right around over there by where you can see my tripod is over where that poop is. So it gave me good shooting in this area, but you can see how open. This is not a bear's favorite kind of terrain to be in during the daytime, but it is how he's going to circle around downwind and smell me. And he's got those trails in here are pretty solid trails, like this being the main one that runs right to that poop. You can see that trail running right here. You can see it run right through there. This is that main trail that he's using to circle me. I was in that tree right there hoping to get a shot right here at about 6-7 yards and catch him as he worked his way right up through there and headed right up over there. But like I said, it did not pan out for me, and I kind of got my butt kicked. But you can see that other one there where it drops right in and goes up right around with my bait being back down there. So definitely kind of tricky scenario. Smart bear. Look at him. He's got this all pretty tore up as he's coming through here and walking in this. And like I said, he's got that big pile of poop right there. You know, great setup, but he's just a lot smarter than I am. But this area, too open for them to be comfortable doing this circle during daylight. I should have brought that stand sight deeper in and gave him a lot more of the stick nasty stuff behind me on the downwind side rather than his open stuff on the downwind side. Give him some way to be able to circle me, because bears know you're there. Okay, you're not going to fool the bear's nose. I don't care what scent lock, ozonics, or rain dance you do up in a tree stand. Nothing is going to beat the nose of a bear. And I've said that many times. My mistake is I did not give him a secure way to see if I was really a threat or figure me out and get around me. I did not give him that option to do that here. I gave him too much of an open country and almost a wall that he could not make it around, which meant he would not want to be here during daylight. All right, so that basically sums it up right there. That's my whole season and how it's been. Now, keep in mind, my season was only a week long. It's all I get here. I do get a few days still, so there may very well be a bear killed out of here. I don't know. I'm going to keep applying these tactics, but I'm not going to put any more logs on there. The only competition I can create for this bear is going to be through the form of these coons and coyotes and stuff like that, so hopefully they'll convince him to come in. I don't think it's worth me trying to move it in deeper here yet. I may very well do that. We will see. If I can't leave this open, and I got 2 weeks before my second season starts. If in 7 days it's not starting to bring that bear in any earlier, that's my next plan, is to take that bait set and move it deeper into that swamp. Forget about the white oaks. I'll go in there another 100, 150 yards, find a spot in there to set up, maybe even 200 yards where he can still be in the swamp circling me. So that's the whole purpose of making this video, was to kind of give you some ideas that you can incorporate and learn from my mistakes. So when you're setting up your bear bait and you're going to run it, make sure that you are in the thick cover, not just right on the thick cover. Make sure you have thick cover all the way around you so that those bears are comfortable making a circle around you. Also, keep in mind that you have to create competition for a lot of these bears, especially a bigger one. I mean, you can get little bears and naive bears that will come in during daylight. That's not a big deal. But I wanted this big one. I had a few of them coming in. I told you, they'd come in sporadically here and there. That's one thing. But, I mean, those are 100, 125-pound bears, and that's not a bad thing. But when you got a big bear like this one that I had coming in, a big mature bear, he's the one I wanted, and he's the one that just outsmarted me. But get in where you got room for them to make that circle. Forget the scent control, the wind control, all that kind of crap. They're going to know you're there, I promise you. As I just showed you from those trails, every single one of them, every one of these animals, they all are going to circle that bait site. They're not coming right directly from the swamp into it. I should have known that. I do know that. I should have been smarter about that, and I didn't. But that's a big one. So make sure you're setting up inside of the swamp, inside of the thick cover, inside of somewhere where they can make a circle around you in secure cover. Next one, if you're going to lock that bait out from other animals, that's fine. And it is not a bad thing to do, as long as there is other bears hitting it that's going to create competition and force the bears to come in earlier. If there's not that competition, let the bait site be open so that all the little critters that come in, they can be the ones that create the competition for you, for that bear. Put out your half a 5-gallon bucket or whatever you're doing out there and leave it open. Let the coons and the coyotes and the porcupines and the possums come and eat that, the crows, whatever's coming in. Let them eat it so that when that bear gets there, he knows there was a bunch of bait there, but he was too late to get the majority of it. There's only a little bit left for him. That will force him to come in earlier to get that bait that's on there. So take advantage of that. And the bait that I used, I'll link it at the end of this video for you. There will be a link right there to the best bear bait I ever used. That bait was incredible here. The bait was phenomenal. And I was able to do a lot of testing over the last month of baiting out here. And I got to see firsthand on that camera what the bear would always go to and what he wouldn't. I could fill that stump full of sugary cake icing, like you would have on glazed donut icing. Fill that stump completely full of that, have it overflowing and running down that thing. And he would walk in and he wouldn't go anywhere near it. He'd go straight for that bait that I made. That one that I show you in that video. That's what he would always eat first. Then he would eventually dig that out, and the squirrels and the coons and everything else would eat all that icing. When that stump was empty, I'd fill it full of peanut butter and let it overflow. And then I'd watch on that camera. That bear would not go to that peanut butter. He'd go straight to the bait that I made, eat all of that first, then go to the peanut butter afterwards. And then so I did that. Another time I filled it full of popcorn as a catalyst and all this sugary, like cotton candy sugar mix. It was just pure liquid sugar, amazing stuff, thick like molasses and stuff. And same thing, he'd head straight for the bait. When the bait was gone, then if he wanted to, he'd go over and he'd mess with that stump. But he wouldn't, never went to anything I put there first. It was always the bait first. Maple syrup, I did the same thing with that. Didn't matter what I put out there. The bait that I made, that I show you in this, was always the first one. I packed that thing full of jelly donuts one time too, and then he still went straight for the bait before he even touched that. So the bait was phenomenal. The system I used was really good. The problem I have is I'm dealing with a bear that has zero competition. He's big, he's smart, he's not dumb, and he's educated as far as because of the area I am about people and that people are dangerous, and it's just all these things combined. I cannot break him and get him here before daylight. Hopefully some of these tips that I've shown you in here, some of these things I'm mentioning for you, can help your cycle be better when you're bear hunting and help get those bears in earlier. I don't think I did any damage when I came in and scared him off that bait and took the bait away, because he was still coming in even later that night after I left. So that may be a tactic as well too, but I didn't have enough time to actually test that one hard enough to see. And that's the first time I ever did it, but it was what we call desperate. I was getting desperate to try anything to get this bear to come in during daylight, and I knew there was nothing to create competition. So my attitude was, I'm going to be the dominant bear. I'm going to take over this site, and he's going to have to work around me. He wants to come in here and eat. He's going to have to get here before I do. And so that was my attempt. And since I'm the one in here baiting all the time, I knew he'd know my smells, my scent, and he'd know that I'm not a threat. I'm the one providing the food. So I would come in, run him off, scoop all the bait up with a shovel, put it back in the bucket, and then I would leave. And he would come back later, see the bait was gone, and be pissed. And the intention was that he would then come in earlier. And he did a little bit, but I didn't have enough time before season ran out to continue testing that theory. But whatever method you use, create the competition for that bear. So he has to come in early. And in order to get him to come in early, you have to have the bait in a spot where he feels secure enough to circle all the way around you. So those are some of the things. And if that doesn't work, don't be afraid to hunt that outer circle, because like I said, even though I only had one day to do that too, I did kill a bear in Canada doing the same thing, a bear that would not come in during daylight while I was on stand. If I wasn't there, he'd come in. When I was there, he would not. He'd circle, smell me, and not come in. So what I did is I got on the downwind side of his circle where he came around, and I killed him at 7 yards on that downwind circle. So, and that was my attempt last night here too, but the weather kind of left me hanging on that one, and it didn't happen. He obviously came in, but I don't know when or what yet. I haven't checked the camera. So thanks for watching. Hopefully this gives you a little benefit. Take some of my failures and the way I screwed up and things that I should have paid better attention to, and makes it where you don't suffer the same consequences, and makes your bear hunt more successful. So thanks for watching. We'll talk to you later. Bye.